In this episode, we're taking a deep dive into Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Not just what he preached, but a detailed look into what it was like in ancient times when Jesus took the stage for his debut speech. We're talking about the meaning behind his words and how to sprinkle a little divine wisdom into our everyday lives. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus kicks off his ministry with a series of speeches, or as I like to call them, sermons for dummies. His opening line, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Talk about a mic drop. Now keep in mind, this was his first time addressing a crowd. No pre-promotion, no tickets being sold by some slick marketing team, no social media hype, and definitely no guest speakers like Bob the Fisherman or Sarah the Samaritan. Just Jesus on a mount. Yes, a mount, which is just a fancy way of saying a pile of dirt or a really small hill. Fast forward 2,000 years, and this little speech stands as one of the greatest hits in the world. This was the beginning of Jesus' ministry, his first show, his opening act. You could say it was like his blockbuster debut, except instead of Hollywood glitz, he had a dusty mount and some very attentive sheep. It played a pivotal part in his teachings, his most famous sermon. Now, in the Gospel of Luke, 6:17-19, it mentions that a large crowd from Judea, Jerusalem, and the coastal region of Tyre and Sidon came to hear Jesus and, oh yes, to be healed. I know. I haven't even touched on the healing part of the show yet, but hang tight. The Gospels describe it as a great multitude attending, but they didn't bother with the head count. Clearly, the disciples were not into door or head counts. It was a free event, possibly the first flash mob or pop-up event in history. I dare you to try this. Go to a park this weekend, stand on a mound, or just a bench if you're feeling shy, and start speaking to see how many people stop to listen. My guess is you'll get a few curious squirrels, but hey, it's a start. It's reasonable to assume the crowd could have been in the hundreds to thousands, but we can't know for certain. Matthew, the author, was a tax collector in his previous life, a numbers guy. You'd think he'd be all about the stats, but clearly, after walking with Jesus, he left his love for counting behind. But before we dive deep into the meaning of Jesus' opening line, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," let's set the scene for this blockbuster and take a peek at what life was like in Galilee. Lights, camera, action, cue the mount. Jesus wasn't about those grand multi-million-dollar productions. He just stood on a mountain, probably wearing an old shirt and a long skirt underneath. Fashion was a bit different back then. And let me tell you, it can get pretty toasty when you're making speeches to a mass crowd. The backstory under this opening scene is set in a heavily controlled Roman Empire that had recently taken over Galilee. Now, Galilee during the first century was like a bustling marketplace of political and social drama. The Romans were everywhere, strutting around like they owned the place. Oh wait, they did. They ruled Galilee and exerted political and economic control over the Jewish people. Imagine a reality show with heavy taxes and religious tensions mixed with a dash of Hellenistic culture. It was quite the soap opera. Jewish peasants were not fans of the Roman Empire, especially when they were paying heavy taxes and left with crumbs to survive. There was a tribute tax, which was like the Romans saying, "Hey, thanks for being conquered, now pay us for the privilege." Then there were direct taxes, poll taxes, land taxes, and a whole lot of taxes on trade and goods. If you sold wine, oil, or grain, you could bet the Romans wanted a slice of that pie. And let's not forget inheritance taxes. They were like, "Congrats on your family fortune, but we'd like our cut, thank you very much." And then there was tax farming, where wealthy citizens bid to collect taxes. Imagine a bidding war for who could be the most unpopular guy in town. These tax collectors, called publicans, could charge whatever they wanted and keep the extra cash. which led to quite a bit of corruption. So, the tax system back then was a bit like what we experience now. No wonder the peasants were resentful. So there you have it. Jesus' sermon wasn't just a nice speech. It was a revolutionary moment in a world filled with taxes, turmoil, and a whole lot of dirt. And that wraps up our journey for today and sets the scene and backstory. But don't go anywhere just yet. There's so much more to explore in part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, this time verse by verse. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more exciting content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us create even more amazing videos for you. Join our community and be the first to know when we drop part 2. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.